I think a lot of people will probably agree with me when I say that I don't recognize my own country. I don't really recognize my home anymore. Not my physical home, but the place that we live, right? In fact, the most home I feel is when I'm out in the mountains and the forest anymore. And speaking of mountains and forests, I don't know if you guys can see, but right there we've got snow at the top of the mountain there. It's about 10,000 feet in elevation, so it can get pretty chilly this time of year. So we've had nice weather up until now, but anyway, that was pretty something to behold walking out. But I've got beef with evil. I want to talk about this. I want to talk about how I've got beef with evil, and I've got beef with people that waste each other's time, or people's time in general, and anybody's time. I really hate nothing more and despise nothing more. There's nothing I find more frivolous to the soul than time wasters. They are just incredulous and despicable. They are not in any way, it's the voluptuousness of the soul that I think I despise the most about these kinds of people. They're vain. They don't really have an understanding of the world. And what I've grown to see is so many people are just not prepared for what's to come. They're just not. And this is because of evil. This is because of the works of evil. This is because of the works of the wicked and the iniquity that is therein in the works. And it's really something that I want to talk about because I don't know about you guys, but I'm just done. I'm just fed up with the way things are happening. I'm fed up with the way things are going. But the thing is that I know that I'm going to need people to do what I'm about to do. I know that I need a team. And this is one of the reasons why we have the Regal Change Academy as a community, is because we are a team. We're trying to get to a common goal, which is not just self-improvement, but to create a godly community. Not just virtually. I mean, the goal would be long-term to create an actual physical community. But that's, that can be years in the future, but it all depends on what happens within the next year or so. And right now, my main focus is screw careers, screw the 9-to-5, because these people don't care about you anyway. It's almost like you have to not respect these people in order for them to respect you. That's how twisted and screwed up the world really is at this point. You have to not give a crap about other people so that they just might give a crap about you. And your coworkers, think about this. How oftentimes you had the coworkers or the people that said, "Oh, we're family, right? We're family." How many of those people are you still talking to after you're not working there anymore? I'll wait. Probably zero, right? Probably zero. So why is this important? It's because nobody really cares what you're doing with your life anyway. But what is going to matter is if resources come to the point to where we're in the Great Depression. I don't know if you guys know this, but in the Great Depression, within a year, all of the wild game out in the forest and out in the mountains and all across the US at the time was nearly extinct, right? Now, why is that? It's because, everybody was starving. That was a hard time for literally everybody. Okay, there was nobody that was not going through a rough patch. To this day, I remember my grandpa growing up, because he was just a little kid at the time of the Great Depression. He said he remembered paying 5 cents for a loaf of bread, and it could feed his family for nearly a week if he really wanted to. But he was working at 6 years old or something at the time during the Great Depression, and 5 cents for a loaf of bread, that would feed his family for a week. That's insane. But that's how hungry they were. Okay, and he was somebody that even as he got older, he would reuse paper plates. He would wash the paper plates because he didn't want to throw anything away. And at the time, I thought it was kind of silly. I was like, man, this, because I was a teenager, I was a kind of a kid, and I was just, didn't really understand where he was getting this from. Even though I've seen poverty, I've seen hard times at that point. The hardest time that I went through in my life was in my college years. I was working full time, I was going to school full time, and I could barely afford ramen noodles and eggs. And I was pretty much living off of Little Caesars pizza and ice cream for a couple months to a year about that point, yeah. And that was the hardest point in my life, because I was losing family, I was losing friends, I was losing everything. And that was really like one of the things that sparked my awakening. And I had to go to the food pantry at one point, a couple times actually, which I was pretty ashamed about. I left there and I remember thinking to myself, never ever again I want to get to this point to where I have to basically beg somebody else for food. But that's the whole point. The people that are pulling the strings right now, they want you to be thinking about only survival. They don't want you thinking about how to prosper. They don't want you thinking about how to build your business or anything like that. They want you in the same kind of state of mind that people had in the Great Depression, where, oh, well, I can get by with this. And I'm not saying that, that's not an important mindset to have if worse times come to worse. And if things do go that route, like, you got to be capable of spreading yourself out a little bit. But what I'm saying is that they want you there now. They want you slaved to the system now. Because even the slaves, they're not going to necessarily have the wherewithal in their mind to necessarily get to think in a way that is not subservient to the ideological subversion that they've been programmed into. These people are ideologically programmed. They can get themselves out of it, but it's going to be very difficult for them to do so. It's going to be very challenging for them, because, imagine eating nothing but pizza your whole life, and then suddenly somebody tells you that pizza that you have, that you've been having, it's not even real. Like, you're feeding yourself a lie, and it's actually not helping you in any way, shape, or form. It's the truth, but you've been doing it your whole life. Like, why would that be counterintuitive to what you're doing now? Think about the resources that it's going to take, and the things that are going to have to happen if things do go south after November. And the reason I say that is specifically for the United States people, because the election here is probably going to change a lot. And I hate politics, but it's like entrenched into our life at this point, and there's nothing we can do but to acknowledge it. And in many ways, to follow Christ is a political statement. So me, as a follower of Christ, I'm kind of in this position. Now, I don't want to keep about the politics necessarily, because this is going to be a more holistic perspective. Politics is just a part of it. But survival, being resourceful, being skilled in certain things, do you know what's going to happen if things go south? Look around. What do you guys see? You guys might see a tree, you guys might see some sagebrush, or some forestry, some mountains. You know what I see? I see fuel and I see water. We've got a river going up through this canyon here. This is not even a 10-minute walk from my place. And I don't even if I drove, I could be there in 2 minutes. It's not a 10-minute walk to get water. But if things do go south, here in the mountains, we've got plenty of animals here. I've seen deer running around, out in the community. We've got plenty of little things here and there that can sustain us. But if things really got to the point to where people needed stuff, all of this, all of that would be gone. And you'd be surprised how fast it would be gone. Because if you need to purify your water, let's say, if you need to purify your anything really, like, do you have the certain supplies that you actually need to thrive in this kind of environment? Like, a lot of people, even me myself, I know that I'm gonna have to need batteries, because if the electricity goes out, if and I'm speaking like drastically here. I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm just saying that if things happen like this is where I would go. Because if the electricity goes out, I have a car that doesn't need to run specifically on electricity, okay? So it's pretty much a manual thing. I have a place where I have water, I have food available, and I also have gas and propane. I don't need the electricity in order to cook anything. I've got certain things prepared, okay? Everybody, I would say everybody in America anyway, that can get a firearm. I'm not telling you that you should be violent, or you should go out and get your guns, but it's probably time to to take a look at some kind of form of protection. Do you have a knife to like cut things? Do you have a pistol, or do you have a shotgun? Do you have a rifle? Like, is there something that you have that if things come to worse, not only would you be able to protect yourself, but if you needed to go on the offensive, you'd be able to do that? Now think about this too, right? If I were to try to hide in the forestry parts here, anybody else could do that as well, right? Anybody else could do that. If I went up to the mountains, anybody else could do that. But in some ways, like the thing that I like about my location that I'm in is that it's rural enough to be like rural, but it's also urban enough to have everything that a city needs. So I picked this place to settle down, at least for the time being, because of the amenities, because of the geographic location, because of the food sources and the water sources, etc. I would have all of the things that I need right here. Like, I am ready for it. I'm ready. And I know that I don't have a lot of what I'll need down the line, but I'm preparing for that. Because if things really do go south, money's not going to be like an issue anymore. Like, money, nobody's going to care about money. Okay? Nobody's going to care. The only thing that's going to be powerful at that time is the people that have control over the agriculture. Okay? And guess what? There's a reason that certain people, I'm not going to say names, but the certain elites have bought certain pieces of land throughout the world. Why? Because they're going to be able to build. And this is where I get the beef, man. This is where I get the beef, because they freaking know. They freaking know what's coming, because they're the one that are scripting it. They're the ones planning it. They're shoving it in your face. They're stealing from you every single day. And everybody, like, most people just seem to be living their lives as if everything's peachy. It's literally like I'm watching hell play out before me, and everybody thinks that they're not in hell. And everybody's like on Pleasure Island, like in Pinocchio or whatever. Yeah, isn't it Pinocchio where they go to Pleasure Island and everybody becomes like a donkey? Yeah, they all become jackasses. That's what it looks like. Everybody around here, not here like in the geographic location I'm in, but in the country, I don't recognize the people. We see red-haired and green-haired. I don't even know what to call them. Like, you can't even call a woman a ma'am or miss. Like, and if you do, it's almost like there's like an underlying tension, and you gotta be mindful of that. And it's like, I don't care anymore. I just don't care. I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. And if I offend you, I don't mean to. I really don't. But when I speak my mind, I have nothing to fear, and I have really nothing to lose, because that is what true sovereignty and true freedom really is. Knowing that you really don't have much to lose except for your sovereignty. And so with that being said, it's about to rain here, so I'm probably gonna have to head back, but I hope this message was useful and insightful, and until next time, peace be with you.